Who's got a discrimination story you want to share that happened to you?
All right, so I was 16, driving in Atlanta, and a white gentleman in a pickup truck ran me off the road. I had 4 of my friends in the car with me. The off-duty police officer in his private vehicle decided to follow my vehicle instead of the vehicle that ran me off the road, and I was pulled over by 4 police cars, and they got out with their guns drawn and were beating on the windows of the vehicle.
Were you in a city or where were you?
I was in Riverdale, Georgia, so that's kind of like suburbs.
Okay.
So not in a major city.
Yeah.
And
Lots of discrimination in suburbs.
no, hang on.
Yeah,
Though.
I had to go to court. I had to get a lawyer. Paid a few $1,000s in fees for me being ran off the road by a white guy.
Yeah, but come on, bro. The cops must have thought you provoked the guys.
Well,
in
you
the
had
pickup
four
trucks.
black kids in a car.
Yeah, you didn't belong there, did you?
I was in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I was down the street from my
You
neighborhood.
don't belong
but,
in your
yeah.
neighborhood, do you?
Well, I mean, that's Georgia in the South, so hey.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
But hang on, AJ. Though you're the judge, what more do you need from that? What did the cop? What more do you need from that? Because you can't take George's word for it here.
Here's the sad part of this whole thing. As a judge, what I have to listen for, if somebody comes before me and says, I've been discriminated against, tell me about it. But unless you can say, I know I've been discriminated against because that guy called me the N-word, or because that guy said, you know, we don't want any blacks in this neighborhood.
I threatened him, so I ran him off the road.
Right. Unless you get actual expressions of discrimination, nothing I can do about it.
So the police in this case.
Police in this case can walk into a courtroom. He alleges some kind of discrimination. They say, were you there? Yes. Did you do these things that the police say you did? And he may say no, and said, fine, we'll take it to trial. But we're not going to rule on discrimination because unless you can tell me these cops said something racial, something that says they are racist, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in the court system unless you catch them saying something racial or racist. And
so
if you don't, it just isn't there.
Yeah, but on the side being a black man, it's my word against his when we go to court. So, I mean, I'm not going to go here and say all the things they said when they were saying get out that effing car and all this other stuff, but a lot of words were exchanged from them. And when we got to court, basically it was like, hey, well, the officer said it didn't happen. They didn't do the body cams and stuff at the time, so apparently it didn't happen.
And a lot of what they said probably wasn't in their report.
No, none of it was in their report.
Wasn't in their report,
yeah.
right. And that's what they'll present to the court is it's not in my report, I didn't say it. I didn't do it.
Uh-huh.
And what you said is in the report and then some probably.
Okay, and so what the implicit bias data would say would be the cops may or may not be, quote, racist. They might be acting on conscious ideas, and they might be thinking that they're actually being fair across the board. They might actually be really fair. They might be fair in 90% of their interactions with people, but in your particular case, it sounds like it wasn't. Although we don't have the other side of the story, right? We only have your side. You know, we trust you because we like you, but, you know.
Let me ask you, in Riverdale, Georgia, it was Riverdale?
Yes.
In Riverdale, Georgia, is the majority population white or black?
At that time, it was majority white.
Okay, and so if you took the thing to trial,
Yes.
you would end up with a predominantly white jury.
Yes.
Okay, and who do you think they're going to believe?
The white officer.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes when I go to Sephora, I get like followed around,
Uh-huh.
and it's just kind of annoying.
So you get followed around, and you don't notice following. Do you notice them following white people around?
No.
Do you look for it?
I don't really look for it. I just like, at first I'm just like, well, maybe I'm overthinking it, but then I take them on a tour. Like we go to the perfume section, and then they're still following me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go like to. No, this is the kind of thing, right? So this in itself isn't a problem. Like you're not being arrested
No,
or if
no,
you're not
it's-
shoplifting. It's like, okay, what's the big? But it's annoying
It's
though.
just, yeah.
I like moved out the hood into like this little white suburban area type, basically like school type. And then like one day, like in the spring, I get real bad allergies. So I went to school, my eyes was like bloodshot, and like I already went to the doctors or whatever, and they gave me like eye drops and everything, but my eyes are still red. And then as soon as I came to school, I was on my way to class, and the principal was just kind of like pulled me over, was like, "We about to see if you intoxicated or anything." And then I see like people like, I'm not gonna say, but my white friends come to school high every day, intoxicated off of pills and stuff. Like that's what type of school it was. And then like they pulled me over, made me test, and then like I had nothing on me and stuff like that. Like they like checked all my bags and stuff to see like if I was selling or like was on any type of weed or anything. So then like, when I told them, and I told them like where my eye drops was, it was in the office, and they still suspended me because like I didn't give my eye drops to the nurse, like cause.
Well, you still got suspended?
Yes, I still
Yeah.
got suspended.
He violated a rule.
I had.
They caught him.
They said I violated a rule. Like they looked for every reason just to suspend me.
Damn, dog.
You know,
What do you do as a judge in these cases like that when you know they're unfair? When you
What-
know people have been treated unfairly?
First, I think it was the first year I was a judge in the common police court. I had a young man who was pulled over in the city of Dayton. That's where I was a judge. In the city of Dayton because he did not have a bell or a horn on his bicycle. He was pulled over because he did not have a warning device on his bicycle.
A bell or a horn?
A bell or a whistle or something,
Wait,
yes.
so is that a rule?
That is a law in the city of Dayton that you have to have some kind of warning thing on your bicycle. He also didn't have a light. Okay, you have to have a light on your bicycle. It was
Okay.
broad daylight, but he didn't have a light on his bicycle either, so
Okay.
they pull him over.
So this
On
is
the side.
this is one of those laws that the police can use to just hassle people, right?
And so they pull him over. He's on his bike. They get him, and they that gives him grounds because he's done something illegal. That means they can pat him down. They find a small amount, very, very small amount of crack on him. And so they arrest him. Now, this is a young man who's 18, 19 years old, no record up to that point. Now he comes before me. They tell me the story that he got pulled over, and he's going to plead guilty to the charge of possessing drugs. And I was upset about that. And afterwards, I took his lawyer aside afterwards and said, "Why on earth didn't you bring a motion to suppress that evidence with that situation?" And he said, "Because, Judge, it wouldn't matter. You would have had to have ruled in his favor because he was doing something illegal. You would have had to rule that that was a legitimate stop." And I said, "What if I hadn't?" The prosecutor would have appealed it, and it would have been back in front of you in a few months. I mean, it's not going to make any difference. He broke the law. He has to pay for it. Now, would they ever do that to a white guy? I never saw a white guy in front of me that didn't have a light on his bike. I never saw
Never
that
did.
kind of violation. I rarely saw a white guy get pulled over for not using the turn signal. I rarely saw a white guy get pulled over who was making some kind of furtive movement in his car. That just didn't happen to white people.
So this was before when my family first moved to a different neighborhood, and we hadn't met everyone yet. So I was driving. I was coming back from school. This was in high school, and I went and I pulled in my driveway and went throughout the day, yada, yada, yada. My brothers and sisters came home, and mind you, we're the only family of color in this neighborhood. And we ended up getting the cops. So then anyways, I left and I came back that night, and I went and I pulled in the driveway, light came on, and next thing you know, the cops are at the door, and then I answer it, and it said, we got a complaint about someone potentially breaking and entering. I said, "No, we live here." Then they're like, can I see some sort of identification, that this is my address? And I said, "For what?" So anyways, we were going back and forth because I did not feel that I needed to present that information. So Judge, how do you feel about that?
I think you have every right not to present your information. But
Does she have to present the information if they
No.
ask for it?
She does if she's like jaywalked or something, which is illegal. You kind of have to tell them what your name is.
I'm
you
in
don't
my home,
you
though.
don't have to present that information, but it's probably It probably avoids escalating the situation if you do. But do you know?
Two things with that, though. Why, in the first place, were the cops called for breaking and entering? We're the
Right.
only family of color.
Yeah.
You see?
That you just
No.
answered the question why
That's
they
right.
were called.
No, I know. I
yeah,
know
you're the
answer.
only family of color.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And this is the incumbent, like white people. You know, like the most recent gentleman that just got. Hang on, we're going to come back to you in a second because you had two things. But when we hear about people being the most recent gentleman, was it in Minnesota it was out in California who got shot by the police? They said it was some other person that called. It's like, no, he's got a gun, and this is like, come on, man. Like, would you have said he's got a cell phone? And would you have said, if it was a white guy that was holding a cell phone, would you have seen it as a gun? And this is the thing. This is implicit bias. This is that stuff. So, yeah, no, like breaking and entering. If you were a white you might have been a white family who was like outside trying to get your windows unstuck at 10 o'clock at night, and people wouldn't have called. You know what I mean? But you're just kind of pulling into your driveway, so they called. This is the shit that sends me over
It's
the
a
edge. All right.
shame.